found out like 15 minutes ago that Michael Jackson was almost in the remake of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I hate that. No, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, he did do The Wiz.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, so are we talking about the Tim Burton one that ended up having Johnny
Yes,
Depp?
and the backstory was, I guess, like the rumblings of the remake came out, and Michael Jackson basically he burst into Warner Brothers. At least is how I'm imagining it. It was like, you're making a Willy Wonka remake. Guess what? I have this soundtrack I just made right now, not 10 years ago. I've been working on it my whole life. Me, famous person, Michael Jackson. He's like, I would like to be Charlie. I would like to be Willy Wonka in exchange for this great soundtrack.
Oh no!
Warner Brothers is like, that's great. This is an excellent soundtrack. But how about you not play Willy Wonka?
Right.
And we keep the music, and you act like you gain something from this.
You're watching Leaving Neverland. No thanks.
How close was this to his court case?
I don't know.
It would have been right after, at least production would have been. Yeah.
That movie came out in 2005.
His trial, all that stuff started in 2002.
Oh,
yeah. So that's probably why he wasn't in it.
So actually, hold on June 13th, 2005, Jackson was acquitted on all counts.
Oh, okay.
So in the middle of it. I was gonna say, is he fucking crazy? Yes, he was fucking crazy.
It was during his trial.
What if part of me thinks he did that ironically?
I feel like
he probably walked up to Warner Brothers with a fucking red carpet with a cane and rolled into their office and took off his hat and was like, "It's me, Michael."
Well, he basically was Willy Wonka. It's just all the creepiness of that entire story was real.
He was Willy Wonka in all the wrong ways.
Yeah. I get what I was listening to is I think that was one of the reasons why Warner Brothers was like, ooh, no, like it's too on the nose. Also, there's been talk about you perpetrating child abuse, and you want to star in a movie where an eccentric factory owner essentially kills a bunch of children.
I feel like he left a joke out there when he said too on the nose.
Yeah. I mean, God damn it. Also, it goes with my personal theory that he actually was a serial killer, and we just don't know about any of his victims yet.
I mean,
I don't think he was put together enough to kill people.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. My theory would work a lot better if it was the turn of the century, the 1800s and early 1900s.
Are you saying he's a Jack the Ripper candidate?
Yes.
Yeah, or even the guy who the doctor who basically ran Hollywood with all the blackmail he had on people.
Oh, you mean the guy
how much?
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. The guy who definitely is responsible for that. He's very much that kind of figure, and I think it would be harder for him to get away with it. But at the same time, if you look at just based off of listening to people talking about that documentary that HBO did, he had an infrastructure that seemed very well built for child molestation.
Oh, yes.
And building on top of that infrastructure a way to kill people doesn't seem that implausible to me.
I don't want to watch this documentary, but I feel like I have to.
Yeah, I don't want to watch it.
It's rough.
I watched the other one, which was really crazy, which was what was it called? Abducted in Plain Sight.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the next one I was about to mention. And here's the thing with that, oh, fuck off! Who put that in the chat?
I did.
God damn it! God damn it!
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
That one. So I was I hadn't heard about it, and here's. That documentary is a hard sell if you're just telling people what's in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was talking to someone at work, and they're like, "Yeah, Abducted in Plain Sight's on." I'm like, "What's that?" And they go, "It's a documentary in a house. It gives the father a handy and sleeps with the woman, then kidnaps the daughter." I'm like, "Why would you watch that?"
Yeah, except they mixed up the order of that.
Whatever.
And they forgot to mention the aliens.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets worse.
You know, the worst part of that documentary is like after a certain point, you're just like, why are this? Why is
It
this
sounds like a lot of things that have like situations where there's like an instant problem solver where it's like, hey, don't do that. Okay. And like
Get the fuck out of here.
people who were responsible for a younger human were like, no, this sounds like a good idea.
Well, there's a big part of it that is that they were Mormons, I believe.
Yes, I think because I listened to a podcast talking about it. Yeah, and they're Mormons.
Why is the roadmap between Mormons and aliens so fucking short?
Aliens fit into the narrative of the religion very well.
I mean, yes, that's true. Like it's not a short or long jump from everybody gets their own planet when they die to aliens exist. Like
I guess not.
So yeah.
Religion is based on like a 13-year-old con artist.
Right. Who talked about golden plates that nobody's ever seen.
I always imagine him as an adult, but then I think about it and I'm like, he probably wasn't.
No, he was a teenager. He was like 15 or 16.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are golden plates in the forest.
Also, you got to remember, this is the time of like the Old West and like westward expansion and all that stuff. So like the way he's dressed is very like Red Dead, and so there's a whole outfit there, and it all makes sense when you're like, oh, he's just a religious snake oil salesman. That's all.
He's also 13 years old. That's the problem.
I'm gonna look up exactly how old he was when he started all this.
Because like, if a 13-year-old today came up to me and like was talking about golden plates he found in the forest, I would beat the fuck out of the kid. No, just kidding.
Produce them. I can't. Get the fuck out of here. I'm so glad we started on this then and then snowballed into that because when we went to Ashley's parents' house and her dad and like his buddy and when his brothers come over, like Ashley's uncles, it becomes just a room encompassing conversation about conspiracy theories and bullshit like that. And I get over there and he's watching something called Alien Highway.
Oh,
which sounds like something you find in the bottom of a fucking Netflix catalog.
I think I've seen it.
I wanted you to say that he was watching the Stan Romanek documentary because
no, but like it's like it has to come up somewhere where I'm like it's funny because it came through the white noise of the room. It was like blah, 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 whatever people were talking. Skinwalker Ranch. I'm like, oh, who the fuck said it? I'm like, who said? Of course you had to say it.
Right. Yeah.
And it was them like, I'm not sure what they were doing. They had some kind of night vision camera on this snowy highway, and they had these hyperbolic reactions to everything they saw, including a bus. Like it came through real fast. They're like, whoa! As if it was coming at them through the screen.
Oh, I did the math. He was 17.
Yeah.
He's still too young to be believed.
But remember, it's the 1820s, and people still are okay with slavery, and so like, yeah.
For like another like shit
20 years after he dies, and there's still a whole war to be fought about it.
The weirdest part of like that whole thing with the Mormon Church is like a lot of our information about DNA and the genome is because of them.
Yeah, they're super into transhumanism.
Yeah, well, yes, they are, but like their entire thing was trying, like one of the richest people in the world was a Mormon, I think, or I don't know if he is still alive. So he paid to have the human genome mapped to prove that Native Americans were the lost tribe of Israel.
Yeah,
and that's why we have
a lot of weird stuff like that, or it's like Mormons in a weird way they're ultra conservative in some ways, but they're also oddly liberal in a lot of other ways.
So he funded a science experiment to prove himself right and then proved himself wrong?
Yes, he proved himself wrong, but it's also why we know that Native Americans are actually, like, they proved the land bridge theory too.
What a fucking winner.
The same DNA, it's like East Asians.
Mm-hmm.
Great job.
Like Hunter was saying, they're like really big into transhumanism.
Yeah, they're like,
so like the show The Expanse, which I think I've talked about on here before. One of the big like running jokes throughout the show is that the Mormons all of them are in space. Like They have the biggest ships, and they have the most money, and they build this giant ship that's bigger than anybody else's. So it's
like someone whispered, "We're going to space," and they were like, "Not before we are, motherfucker."
Yeah,
the fuck out of the way. We've been thinking about this for a long time.
Yeah, and they're building a ship to go to like Zion, Zion.
We already built a ship. Get out of the way.
Space Israel.
Yes, and it's got its own gravity. Like it's insane, but it's like, yeah, that's probably what would happen if we really started going into space.
So this TV show, I wanted to get to this part because it was where it's where, and I've said before, anything related to Skinwalker Ranch even makes me, like, who's kind of a healthy optimist, go fuck off. Of like what's clearly a bunch of missing frames occurs, and then like a coyote or a dog, it's very, very clearly a fucking coyote or a dog or a wolf.
Yeah.
Walks halfway through frame and they're all like,
I mean,
phase aliens.
So here's the thing. The stories about Skinwalker Ranch have kind of poisoned the well, I think, in that department, where you can kind of go there and like hyper react to things. It's kind of like I can't remember the name, but it's like if you decided to do a video about the Japanese death forest, and just overreact, to everything that you see, and
what?
Right? Yeah, exactly. And people would probably watch that and enjoy it because they've been hyped to believe all kinds of stuff and like.
Well, I mean, of course they do, because when Frank opened up the TV guide, it was like, I feel like these are all fictional titles because first of all, there's way too many of these fucking shows because they're just on in like a never-ending block.
Wait, he opened up a physical TV guide or the guide on the TV?
The guide in the TV. No, he's not that old.
I was gonna say I didn't know they made those still. I kind of
no. Like the digital guide, like the fucking
Yeah,
but
it was like in newspapers.
It was like Alien Highway, UFO Country. Like I'm like, these sound like sci-fi movie titles.
Yeah,
I mean sci-fi, like the channel, not the genre.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they like pair the production crews and they like shoot them at the same time.
What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Well, that's like my favorite thing, kind of from listening to Rogan, because he did that show for a season. What it was called, but he's like
Joe Rogan questions everything or something like that.
That's the title. Like, he's just like, he said it was like one of the most brutal things he had to do because all he had to do was sit and talk to crazy lonely white people. He's like, you know what you see before you see a Sasquatch? When you go squatching, you'll see a Squatch before you see a black person. They just don't exist in these communities.
That's got to be really disheartening for someone like him because he's really into that shit.
Oh yeah, he said it completely. He's like, I am now cured of like a bunch of the conspiracies and those things that I thought from doing that show.
Yeah, he turned on a bunch of stuff. He was like, "Yeah, it's not anything. There's a logical explanation." But then there are other things that he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea."
But one of the interesting
actually contrails, like
contrails, he's completely like that's so dumb. The one that was interesting.
You say chemtrails?
Yeah, chemtrails, a contrail.
Yeah.
Most of those things, like the government ones doing stuff, is people with a complete lack of understanding of science and technology and how it works.
Yeah, and then there's HARP, which is 100% real. We just don't know what it actually does. So,
and they do actually speculate. Like, in the Middle East, they actually do cloud seeding. Like, that's a real thing. Like, they have to.
They do it in Dubai.
Yeah, and they do it in Dubai and Saudi Arabia with all that awesome WWE money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. Here's the thing. They are paying the WWE to come over here.
Exactly. Yeah, and they signed
it's like $100 million a year.
Well, they got lots of money to throw around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it is, and that's what everyone's fucking pissed at Vince about. He's like, your fucking wrestlers are literally cattle right now. Like and like, word came out from that show that a lot of people didn't want to fucking go. Most of them didn't want to go, but a lot of them were also like, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
like I can't. I have no say in going to this country that won't allow like my wife to wrestle on the show because she's a woman, and also still beheads people on the street for being gay. Like,
yeah,
I'm sure like a bunch of them also had to hide like their personal religious beliefs and stuff like that. And
Sami Zayn, who is of Syrian descent, was told, well, the Saudi government told Vince, yeah, he's not allowed here. And Vince was like, you got it. Like,
yeah. But Vince wants to be Disney, right? He wants to be Disney, you know, that company that is pulling out of states for enacting shitty laws. But
yeah.
that's
like he really
what it wants to be.
He really walks that line with the sports thing, though, because he does also want some of that sports stuff. He wants to be talked about. Of like,
that's part of the problem. He doesn't know what the fuck his company actually is anymore because it was a wrestling company. But then if you said wrestling after the year 2001, no, we're not a wrestling company. I don't know what you're talking about. We're a sports entertainment industry.
Well, they also had to change the name.
Because now from I've learned the past few years, like things like what did Dean Ambrose say in that quote I pulled? Oh, you have to watch your language around Vince because he'll turn language into props.
Yeah.
I guess basically what it was, if you use certain verbiage around him, he's gonna weaponize it in some stupid way. And then so he does the same thing with like certain words are bad, but use this. I'm like, okay, but that's a 6-word version of saying this word.
Right.
Why are we doing this?
Like calling a burrito a meat wrap. This man calls burritos meat wraps. I will never get over this.
Yeah. It's not a title. It's a championship belt.
Yeah. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I don't know if the WWE has a board, but they need a board.
They do because they went public in
like 5 or 6 years ago.
No, it was longer than that.
That was 2014.
It was early. Yeah, I think it was early 2000s. I feel like.
No, I'm mixing my timelines wrong. That they had the network in like.
Yeah. There's a board
for that,
like,
right?
There's a board, but like those
they don't have enough power.
People can't fucking control that guy.
Yeah. Also, one of them. Okay, so here's part of it. Steph and H are both on the board, and then the other people are Kevin Dunn, Michelle D. Wilson,
come on,
and George Barrios. So he owns.
The board is pretend
correctly.
Okay. Here's the thing about
he has half the board.
Here's the thing about Kevin Dunn that people who don't really like follow wrestling intently need to know. Kevin Dunn is only in the place he is now. Not because he's a good TV producer, because anybody who studies TV production will watch an episode of WWE and go, "This is trash." He can't film an action. He can't direct an action sequence or produce one from the truck to save his life. His idea of shaky cam was to zoom in and out a bunch of times.
Okay.
And make your audience physically ill. But I guess he's way back when there was some kind of fire in a car. And a bunch of their tapes were in there, and he saved them. So that means he is impervious to any form of discipline or losing his job ever. That is the story. He is like basically invincible because of just that one thing. He can fuck up left and right and just be there until he's dead. So as long as Vince has a pulse anyway.
Right.
Which is probably going to be forever.
There's also great stories about how Jim Cornette reached across the table during a writers' meeting, made it a point to make fun of Kevin Dunn's very large front teeth, called him a beaver, which apparently Kevin Dunn had a nervous breakdown and sobbed over, and then threatened to beat him within an inch of his life in front of everyone in that room. And it wasn't the first time he'd done this. He has some very colorful language about Kevin Dunn. And Vince Russo.
But yeah, anyways, Vince owns this board and he can do whatever he wants. So yeah, that's why. It's people are gonna say yes to him no matter what. Like
until people start leaving in mass droves, like talent starts leaving in mass droves to other companies, which is happening.
Well, even if those other 3 people who I mentioned turn against him, like I feel like Steph and H, he can maybe get one of them to turn against him, but I feel like one of them will always vote with him. Probably.
It's gonna be Triple
it would become more, and this goes to like our chat conversation of what happened in Russia when like Putin stepped down and then somebody else came in as the president for like 2 years, and then he's like, "No, you're doing a bad job. I need to come back." Like
That
that's
happened?
what happened.
Also, he was prime minister, so
Yes.
basically he was just like he took a slightly lower position, but like, yeah, he still is like the richest man on earth.
Yeah,
Probably.
Vincent stopped being.
I didn't know he did that, Putin.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
And then he
So
came back.
he stepped down and then was like, nah.
yeah, he stepped down to
Yep.
another
And
position.
it was
and
just
then-
like, get out of my chair.
yeah, it was for 2 years. And he's like, "No, you're fucking it up." Yeah, that whole thing. I think it's the hardcore history. I think he did like a whole thing on the oligarchies I listened to, and it's so interesting.
I'm kind of on a kick with that lately, so I'll have to look that up. I actually watched something called Oversimplified.
Yeah, it's really good because a lot of it is about like how Putin was picked because they thought he'd be a pushover, and that he basically killed everybody.
Wait, okay, hang on. Come on, Russia.
Well, this is like the previous. This is like the
It's
main
fucking
communist.
happened before.
Yeah,
Well, also there's a lot of stuff like so the Russian apartment bombings, which is their equivalent to 9/11, which started the Chechnyan Wars. Nobody knows about the Chechnyan Wars here in America because they weren't covered because they were happening at the same time as invading Iraq and Afghanistan.
I've only ever heard them like brought up, but I've never taken the time to look into them. I probably should.
well, they've had a bunch of terrorist attacks. There was like the one that was in like a theater that was crazy.
Yeah, but the apartment bombings, one of the bombings was announced on TV days before it happened.
Oh no! So
Somebody,
you mean like Parkland was here?
right,
Yeah.
like a
Except
news
for this.
like a news anchor like said this building has been bombed, and then they pulled that footage and it was deleted, but people saw it, so they know it happened. And days later, that building blew up from a bomb in an apartment, like a improvised explosive. So yeah, like it's most likely a fake bombing that Putin set up, like a false flag attack to start a war with Chechnya. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, he's done some. That's like it goes back to the other thing I said in the chat was, if you watch, I think it was in HBO Real Sports on the Olympics. I think it was either the They did like two. One was on the
No,
Olympic
on
venues now, and one was on the IOC. I think.
hmm
The only coverage from that, like that wasn't the games I ever saw, was the condition the Olympians were staying in, because that was consuming the headlines.
Yeah, which if one of the things of the IOC is like, look where they do these Olympic Games. You had Sochi. They were in China, like in Beijing a couple years ago, and they're going back to China in like 2 years. And then weren't they trying to? FIFA was putting one in Qatar, and then they were also there was an Olympics in Rio. It's like they put them all in these countries where there's like the most corrupt governments that will just do whatever they want because they just don't give a shit about the people, and they're totally not for profit organization.
The Olympics?
Yeah, it's a complete horseshit thing. But yeah, like the Sochi trying to get the Olympics was like a huge thing because they were able to put a shit ton of people to work and then show off the power of like Russia to the world. And it's what kept Putin in power.
I mean, the Olympics are basically just a stand-in for war, really.
Yeah, it's a war parade kind of thing.
Yeah, like that's what it is. Because the amount of money that they spend on the Olympics, it's pretty similar to what you spend ramping up to going to war with another country.
Yeah, well, for countries that are not like highly, like.
Well, and Hitler saw the Olympics around his time as a chance to be like, watch, the black man is inferior. Shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well, he didn't really care about
He just
black
sat there
people.
with his fucking arms crossed the whole time, just sitting with a friend.
Well, they didn't really care about black people. There weren't any black people in Europe, basically, at that point in time.
Right. It was really just like it was like
It's Russian superiority with all their amazing steroids.
Yeah, and building a habitat for wolves. Because
Yeah, all the Ivan
fucking
Drago.
video of a wolf.
Well, that's one of the funniest things. Like all those records from the Olympics only got broken, I think, in the last couple especially the track ones, and it's been by all these Jamaican teams where they all got popular steroids too.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I had a thought and it's gone. No, what was that channel called again?
The podcast or something, Hardcore History.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other thing, the Olympics thing, was on Real Sports from HBO with Brian Gumbel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of history buff stuff I hadn't caught up with yet, and that guy's fantastic. And if you want a good time, just watch a video where he's watching a Mel Gibson movie. Because Mel Gibson is that guy's fucking enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I didn't I knew there were liberties taken with Braveheart. I didn't know that the movie is just like.
Oh, it's completely like
Harrison Fording the story of Braveheart.
It's like horse shit. Like it's
the same thing.
Horse shit.
It's the same thing they did with like even though the movie is really good. What was the one with Steve Carell and the DuPonts?
Oh yeah, Foxcatcher.
Foxcatcher. Like that is from everything I've heard, like almost completely horseshit. The way that they make it seem like Channing Tatum is like kind of almost gay for pay, like in a way that they're like really tongue in cheek. Like none of that shit happened.
Yeah.
It's the Hollywood, like the Hollywooding of stuff.
It's really tricky because you don't know where I don't really know where the line is with that. I know that with a subject matter where we don't know all the details, I'm definitely more comfortable with it. Like Vikings, for example, that show takes a hell of a ton of liberties, but we don't actually know what happened in a lot of those cases. Like we don't know the specific details of how things went down.
I was going to say, it's funny you say that because the oversimplified video I watched was, and I was talking about this the other day, the Three Kingdoms era, and I didn't know that. I guess generally speaking, a lot of what supposedly happened during that era may be totally bullshit because of how absurd the whole thing got.
Wait. Are you telling me Dynasty Warriors is not a documentary?
I'm telling you, Dynasty Warriors is real and real history is fake.
That's right. You're right.
Exactly. This is true.
They all had magic and big headpieces.
Also, cool weapons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Like for example, nobody actually really knows what happened in England from the fall of Rome to the Norman invasion. We have some ideas of what was going on and some accounts, but like there's lots of stuff that's just missing, which is why like nobody can confirm that there was actually a King Arthur. But there's you can just as easily argue that there was a King Arthur. So it's pretty.
Yeah, and, I think I mentioned the other day too. I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and there's a landmark where Theseus died in Greece. I was like, I didn't know y'all recognized Theseus as a person.
Oh, well, okay. So what happens with that stuff is that the Greeks recognized those people, those demigods, as their ancestors.
Well, it's also a lot of like historical people were turned into demigods too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if you had an ancestor who was kind of similar to Perseus, you could claim you were related to Perseus.
I just like that Theseus, like his story, the man who got out of the labyrinth, the man who killed the Minotaur, ends because someone's like, Theseus, your sandals aren't selling us anymore. I'm throwing you off this cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't popular anymore, so someone murdered him.
Yeah, but there's it's not just Greek, because there's like there's like a Jet Li movie that's like one of those historic things.
Oh, Fearless.
Yeah.
Fearless is I think it's Fearless is
Is that the one where you have to get within like 100 paces or something like that to do a special combat move?
Hero, and I fucking love that movie.
That movie's awesome, but that's basically supposed to be historically fact. Like based on like historical
I think
to a degree.
It's based on, I think, certain aspects of how China ran at the time, but I don't think it's based on one particular man.
I think it's based on like a fable.
I just found out that apparently in that time period, you were not to walk in the presence of the emperor. You were to trot. And I don't know how you qualify a walk or a trot. Like,
Wait, like a horse? Like
I don't know. Like you're supposed like. Please don't run in front of the Emperor. Okay, I'll walk. Please don't walk in front of the Emperor. What am I supposed to fucking do?
I think because like if you're walking,
can you please demonstrate?
I think because if you're walking, then you're like, are you up to something? Like you're like,
I guess
hanging around too much.
You could not be seen as doing anything that would even be considered suspect.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I also learned through this Three Kingdoms thing about something called court culture in China, which is, I guess, they had all these fucking eunuchs that would work for all these child kings and or child emperors, and because like child emperors were habitually put in power well before they were supposed to, because their dad would walk up and go, "Hi, son, I'm emperor. I know I haven't been around too long, and now I've died." And
they drink themselves to death.
Yeah, or they have a heart attack or a stroke, or they die at 45 because it was like,
here's my life's work.
Yeah, I hate you, son. Here's my life's work. But then as soon as these emperors die, the fucking eunuchs swoop in and go, "Hello, 6-year-old. Would you like an apple? Would you like to change the country policy?" Yes, you do.
Yeah. Well, it's the same stuff that happened in Egypt a couple of times. But yeah, to go with what you're saying, like that's kind of what happened and why the Mongol entire horde fell apart.
Yes, they mentioned that.
Because Genghis Khan is recognized as a Chinese emperor. He basically united the entire eastern part of the world. Like he conquered all the way. He got through Russia and was like marching on Germany, or one of his troops was marching on Germany, not him, when he died. And the only reason they did not conquer Europe was because he died.
Well, and the only reason his empire didn't reach those heights again. Yeah, because of kids and
his son died before he could name a successor. Mm-hmm. So because his son died when he was like 35 from being an alcoholic, and then the way that they worked, it was like a democracy sort of. So all the heads of the families would have to come together and vote on a leader. So they'd have to leave all their fronts and come all the way back to Mongolia.
Right.
Oh God.
My understanding is that they didn't pick one successor.
No, his son, Kublai Khan did not pick a successor before he died. So then he was split into two different groups.
Mm-hmm. And one of them converted to Islam and the other didn't, which also caused problems.
Yeah.
So,
which, again, to go to hardcore history, that is the best one he's ever done, because they talk about there's like some written stuff from like Russians. Or not from Russia, from like Germans who were like kind of moving around talking to Russians. They're like, yeah, don't go east. There's these fucking crazy people on horses that will just destroy the shit out of you. You're like, oh yeah, whatever you're talking about. And then just one day they showed up like on the wall, like at the walls in like outside of Germany. And they're like, what the shit is going on?
What is that? It's awful close.
Well, like one of the things that was also about them is that they were kind of like the real life Borg. Like they would just assimilate people, if they thought like anything about them was worthwhile. Yeah. But if you pissed off the Khan, you were erased from history.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons historians say why Afghanistan is the way it is today. Because they pissed whoever was the Khan at the time, or the Shah at the time in Afghanistan pissed off Genghis Khan. So he's like, all right, we're going to kill everybody. We'll leave. Then they wait like 4 days. And then when people start coming out to bury their dead, they come back and they kill all those people.
Oh, Jesus.
And then they threw all of their writing into the river and then just burned everything to the ground.
Jesus.
And erased them from history. So they're like, basically they took an entire, like a rising, what you see in like Aladdin, like this Arabian like continent, and they put it back to the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like nothing about history can ever just be like, it was no big deal. Like everything is extreme.
It's why it's what I'm going back to school for, because like it is like the most hardcore stories in existence are real.
Yeah, and actually
history's crazy.
The whole Three Kingdoms thing, it's even as ridiculous as I imagined it to be, just based on like growing up around stuff that was constantly adapting that into some form of piece of entertainment. I guess the Yellow Turban Rebellion was far worse than I thought it was. And it was millions of people. And so like I guess whoever the reigning emperor was had to like they sent out like we need every fucking warlord in the country. And it was like that Gary Oldman thing from The Professional. Get me everybody.
We need everyone.
Everyone. And I guess like all of them were like, all right, there's a fucking rebellion, and all of them showed up and they fucking stomped this rebellion so hard.
Well, so they said like I think it's like a couple of times like China, including like the Mongolians, have changed like ecologically like the Earth.
Well, Genghis Khan was partially responsible for most of the deaths that are attributed to the Black Plague.
Yeah, basically they can tell when his rule is based on the carbon footprint because there are less people.
Exactly. And what was it? He was catapulting plague-ridden bodies into port cities while people were trying to escape.
Well, as we know from, I'm trying to think what movie it was, but like human fat is very flammable.
Yeah.
So they would light bodies on fire and then catapult them into the cities.
Yep.
Which would basically be like old timey napalm.
Dirty bomb too, because like
it's a dirty bomb and napalm.
Like let's say one of those bodies hits the deck of a ship after sailing through the air and the flame potentially goes out. Congratulations, you now have a charred pile of goop.
No, if it falls on the roof in a like tight knit neighborhood, like a condensed neighborhood, then you either start a giant fire or everyone's affected now.
Or everyone's sick.
Yeah.
I also read that I read that the line from 300 and I guess the lines from like various writings on Thermopylae was Xerxes' army was so massive that it actually drank rivers dry, and I guess that's true.
Yeah.
His army was so massive they were not just drinking rivers dry, but they were changing the bedding of rivers because of just how many fucking things were moving through them.
Yeah, they cut literal paths through the mountains.
Well, it's not just that they built a bridge in a week, and not just like
oh, that's amazing.
But like a bridge across a sea, like a bridge made out of pontoons.
They're fucking taking it apart as they put it up. Like
that's what you can do with like a million people, like Arby or whatever he had. Yeah, they marched fucking elephants through the Alps and came down.
The elephants are like, we're not supposed to be here.
Like that's where like you get like the stories. It's like like people like or like Bible stuff, or it was like like behemoths and all these mystical creatures. And to go back to what we're talking, it's like it's a fucking elephant. If you've never seen an elephant before, like your brain would fucking explode.
And that's and like I know people who can't understand the idea that 300 is supposed to be an exaggerated version. And at one time I said this, I think it was actually at my ex-girlfriend's house, and her neighbor was drunk as fuck. And he's like, "You're stupid. None of this shit ever happened." He just walked away from me. I'm like, I didn't say there was fucking monsters with sword hands, you idiots. Like,
right.
There were Greeks. There was a Sparta and an Athens.
Yeah, there. Yeah. Yes, Don. Greece is a fictional place.
I remember
Go ahead.
My world history teacher back in high school told me the story about Spartans. Like, you know the scene in 300 where he kicks the messenger down the well?
Yes.
Yeah, but this is Sparta.
So apparently what actually happened, or what is assumed happened, was they fucked up and killed him by accident. And they were like, oh, fuck. So they sent another messenger back to be like, sorry, we killed the other dude. Like the whole them killing the messengers thing is them just like fucking up and like getting so angry and killing.
Well, I've read other things that might contradict that, because I guess when they sent messengers to Greece, and I can't remember what, I think it was actually Sparta, to like before this whole shit went down, and someone said, if Xerxes conquers your country, no one will be spared. We will kill your women. We will kill your children. And I suppose the message they sent back to Xerxes was, if. That's it. If. I'm like, Jesus.
Well, they were
finger 300, thousands of years before it fucking existed.
Well, it's like the one thing, if you look at either Assassin's Creed or you look at that movie or comic book, it's It's like, yeah, the Spartans were a different type of people. Like
They were kind of dicks.
Well, they threw babies if they weren't perfect.
Yeah, I think
they were kind of
people really gloss over that. They're like, Spartans are awesome. I'm like, yeah, but like there was like a 50-50 chance you'd be thrown off a cliff when you were born.
They had ancient time eugenics.
Yeah, they're awesome in the way that like Nazi uniforms are awesome. I guess you could say.
Well, they're awesome the way you can respect their prowess for battle and like. I guess like,
right.
Hey, you guys developed a pretty fucking good country, but it's built on lots of very ethically ambiguous things.
And then you look at it like, which culture survived and took over the entire nation? Not Sparta.
Well, yeah. Well, you could say that Greece is kind of built on like one smaller kingdom in all of Greece. Like, I like that part. Let's take that. Oh, and let's take that part, and let's take that part, and let's make this into an actual country.
Yeah.
And then they just take over all of India. And
they also had slaves who they were just really not shy about just like, yeah, go kill that guy. Who is a slave? It doesn't fucking matter. Just kill him. I guess one of the Agoge, I guess, or it's the Goge? Yeah, what if the like the process to become a Spartan soldier was, yeah, here's a knife, go out at night and kill a slave and don't let anybody see you doing it.
Oh, so there were two parts of that. Go out and kill a slave and don't get caught, and then sneak into a woman's bedroom and have sex with her, regardless of if it's against her will or not. And if she can fight you off, if she can fight you off, you do not become a Spartan soldier. And also, it's your first time ever being with a woman, because having gay sex was part of training as a Spartan.
Also, have fun. Women are also trained in combat. Because if we die, they're defending this place.
Yeah. Well, the gay sex was like part of the culture as well as like the boy sex.
Well, no, it wasn't just that. It was part of how they fought so well, because a younger man would be paired with an older man, and it would be encouraged that they would fall in love so that they would be better in battle at protecting each other.
Well, you say like man, but these are all like 25, and then the younger man is like 15.
Yeah.
My understanding is that it was like 40 and 20, but yeah, or as
No, but the combat bond thing you're talking about, I've heard brought up before. And like I guess there's a story too about how before Thermopylae they were getting ready, and Xerxes sent spies over, and they came back and said, "Well, what does that look like?" They go, "We're confused. They're braiding their hair. They're oiling each other up. We don't know what's happening. We think they're a bunch of pushovers."
Yeah, they thought that they were fighting metrosexuals or something like that.
Well, it actually ties into something that's like apparently a thing that happens even today. Is that so? You know how like army bases work, where they have like the housing for the families.
Mm-hmm.
They all live in the neighborhood. Apparently, it's a thing that if people are in the same unit, that they kind of swap around in order for like everybody to kind of like that they're one giant family.
Oh,
and that's like part of the culture.
Weird.
Yeah, so that like you care about like so that every woman cares about every man. And then every man cares about taking care of the families when they get back.
That's an interesting way to go about it.
Trying to set the same level of empathy from one person to the next. Instead of
so that like if someone doesn't come back, you're all one giant family and you all care about each other.
You're all upset about it. And you all have the same reaction to it.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, because if you go back to earlier in history, like there's not really an account of war the way that it grew to be later on, because everybody was like literally family. Even people in other tribes, they might have been family. So yeah, that's fascinating.
But the whole the man on man thing, like, or man and boy, it always bothered me in the movie 300 when Leonidas is like, "Oh, the Athenians, well, those boy lovers." And he said, "I'm like, shut the fuck up."
Yeah,
I'm guessing a lot of that is like lines from the comics. So I wouldn't put it on Rodriguez.
That came from Frank Miller.
Yeah,
that's
Frank Miller shit.
Who is such a stupid edge lord, but he's like, the Athenians, me, you're gay.
I mean, the guy who wrote a book called the what was it? It's not the Superior Race. What is it called?
Dark Knight 3, The Master Race. How did no one see that as problematic?
I saw it. I was like, wait, what?
Oh no, I mean the people who get paid to let these things come out, as books.
And I think he has another book coming out for DC.
Questionable choice? Is that what you're saying?
Well, like it's like he brought this to the same people he brought Holy Terror to, and they were like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? You can't do this." And he's like, "I'll do it anyway." And then
and he's doing another book for them soon, I think.
Stop giving Frank more work.
It's because he made the one book that everyone thinks of when they think of Batman.
I mean, you're right. You're correct, but at the same time, like, if George Lucas announced he was coming back to filming, nobody would let him do it.
No, you know that you're wrong. There are several studios.
Not where I thought you were going with that, but it was still good.
But like, you're telling me Sony wouldn't give him shit? Paramount, Universal.
If he comes to them with a movie that you would expect from like prime George Lucas, right? That's one thing.
I don't know. I think just like slapping that name on it is like enough for those companies.
If George Lucas presents Batman,
well, yeah,
you wouldn't let him.
Right, but like, so he still is making movies. He's just not releasing them to the public. It's like a lot of like footage of waves edited with footage of trees with music and like all kinds of weird light effects and stuff. Because
so he's a YouTuber.
Oh, you stole it.
Yeah, basically. And if he was like, I want to do a cinematic version of that, and he went to one of the big studios, they wouldn't let him do it. That's equivalent to what Frank Miller is doing, as far as I'm concerned. He's making the most Frank Miller thing that he can. Yeah, he's putting Batman on it, but it's still him spreading his very questionable politics through.
And let me tell you something. If you have you ever cracked open, like, either digitally or physically, Holy Terror? Not like the actual book called Holy Terror, the one that had the Batman name removed from it.
I looked into it after you showed us a bunch of stuff from it because I just wanted to. I just wanted to see. And yeah, I couldn't get more than a couple pages in.
Well, first of all, it's physically uncomfortable to even glance at because it's like the art is black and white and he fucking fills every panel with bullshit. So I'm like, I can't even tell what's a person, what's a building, what's raindrops, and what's blood in this picture. I can't tell them all apart. It's also written like a 13-year-old. It's written like a 13-year-old imagines how like a very, very hormonal 13-year-old would write a Batman and Catwoman comic.
You mean the guy who wrote a Nazi that has like swastika pasties on her nipples?
Oh, for God's sake. I keep forgetting about that part in Dark Knight Returns. Mostly because, like, I think in my head, I just imagining Batman just fucking knocks her out, and that's the first and last.
He doesn't even fight her. It's the cop, right?
I don't remember because he dresses up because somehow Bruce shrinks his old burly ass down into a tiny old woman disguise, and then just like bursts out of this tiny old woman disguise in like full old.
I'm trying to. Maybe she comes back in the second book because her and the cop kill each other.
I remember that stuff more from the animation. And in the animation, he's still the old lady, but like...
I have the image. I'm going to drop it in the thing. I forgot. She also has... She is wearing assless chaps, and her ass cheeks also have swastikas.
Yeah, and they commit to that in the animation, and I still have to commend them.
No, they gave her the tits. Like, they gave her swastika tits.
Jesus
Christ. No, they went all in. Okay, that old lady is Chonk, actually.
Oh, my. Also, NTS, whatever it is, for don't Google Dark Knight Returns Nazi woman, because it takes about, like, 7 pictures to get to... really gross naked porn pictures.
Okay, then.
I'm surprised it only took 7.
When Frank Miller glanced at the Rogues Gallery for Batman for something to inspire him to create this like throwaway villain, what led him to this?
I can actually see the kind of connection a little bit.
It makes sense in the world.
Yeah, the whole influence, I guess, on it, and like. I don't know.
And like the idea is that it's sort of about fascism sort of rising up naturally because of because of society falling apart.
Yeah, and the government being run by just like a very lackadaisical fucking wait. It's Reagan, right?
Yeah, it's Reagan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's not really run by him. It's like run by the corporations behind him. Like,
it's like an even more hands-off Ronald Reagan. He's just like, well, Superman, go do the thing. All right, good job, Boy Scout.
Right. Like if Reagan knew about it, he would have maybe sued, but I don't think he did. So that's a good thing.
he was probably senile by the time it happened anyway.
Right.
This is like there are actually like amazing things in that book, like that will forever like be remembered. Like how the stuff ends with the Joker, the stuff with Two-Face, Green Arrow, Carrie Kelly. Like there are some amazing things he does in that book.
But then there's shit like this.
Yeah, and then there's swastika titties. So
I'm also like I like as cool as all the events around them are. I've never liked the fucking mutants.
yeah,
I was like, yeah, you're a bunch of like misplaced youth, and like maybe you're what Bruce could have become if he didn't find some kind of calling. But then your boss is Killer Croc with pointy nipples, and that's where the whole thing falls apart.
Right. Like the problem is that so he's such like an old hipster, even in the 80s. Like he feels so out of place and out of touch with the youth that it feels like a very inauthentic look at youth culture and where it might go.
Well, it was that was when they start talking because they speak like idiots.
No, they speak kind of like this weird like 50s talk. Like it's something like that Stephen King does all the time.
All that fucking switchblades and leather, and they're all saying shit like slice and dice.
Yeah. It's like 50s talk on like an old man's view of like 80s punk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's completely disconnected from anything that's actual punk.
Yeah.
So it doesn't connect.
Yeah, when I was looking into punk culture when I was in my teens, I always wanted to get a pair of Bebop sunglasses.
Exactly.
When I was like 7 years old watching that cartoon, I did want a pair of Bebop sunglasses.
Yeah. I do think the mutant leader works. For me, he works because of his whole like monosyllabic thing, and like he feels like a unique character to me.
Oh, that whole fight and everything about them. Like they work as a concept. They're just dumb by them. Like when you just read what they're saying, but like the concept of them works.
Yeah. And I think that they should have leaned into him actually being like a mutant. Like he should have like gills and like and stuff like that.
Really weird dude for no reason because he's got teeth, he's got fangs. And like
see like a total chud, like just a fucking
he's a chud who took too many steroids.
Yeah.
But then again, everyone in that book looks like they did too many steroids. Like even fucking old Green Arrow is like beefy as shit.
Yeah.
And then you have Superman. I'm like, there's no way you fit through any door on this planet anymore. Like, hey, Clark, you want to get? All right, I'll just let you pass through. Go ahead.
Frank Miller draws. You ever see those like Far Side cartoons and like that's what it reminds me of every time.
What's funny,
instead of everyone being just bulbous and unhealthy looking, they're just like fucking roided out.
Yeah.
But I was thinking it's like one of the few things that his like the art in those books work is I love the designs for Batman and Superman at that age though. Like I like that you have I think Batman's what like 60s or 70s in this?
He's 50s, 60s, I would have to say.
50s, 60s?
Yeah. But like me too. Like I love his big fucking rectangular jaw. His kind of like minimalized eyes and his frame that's just like absurd.
He's a box.
But then you have Superman whose hair is drawn as just basically one object that leads into a curl.
Yeah. I love that he's like gigantic up top and then has the tiniest legs.
Tiny little head and these little arms and these little hands. I mean, yeah. And his shoulders are longer than Bruce's tall.
But I do like the other, like the Ollie design is awesome with the one arm. I always blend the first two books together because I read them back to back. So like, I know Flash doesn't appear till the second book. Plastic Man doesn't. Is Wonder Woman in the first book?
No, Catwoman is in.
Oh, Catwoman. That's horrible.
Like all of it is really bad, and like it's weird that like everyone who's in that book, even as old people, even Ollie as an old guy, you're like, yeah, he's got like one arm and long hair, but other than that, like he's just kind of like he looks like kind of a normal old guy. Catwoman is drawn as this like he's drawn as what Frank Miller thinks old women all look like or something. Like he's got this kind of weird thing. Like Catwoman's fat and she's over made up, and then the next time you see her, she is in a Wonder Woman costume with a ball and gag in her mouth, tied up in a closet because Joker put her there. I'm like, why did he put her in a Wonder Woman costume?
Yeah, that's.
Is he the Joker?
He thinks it's funny.
I mean, what the Joker thinks is funny should never come to a surprise to us. So yeah.
But then I think I opened up The Dark Knight Strikes Back.
Yes, that's the second one.
I opened that up for 5 minutes and was like, yeah, I'm never touching this again.
There are some, again, it's like, it has the same things as the first one. There are some interesting ideas. There's just less of them.
Yeah.
And there's more shit.
From page to page, I can't stomach to look at it.
Yeah.
The
feature is awesome. Is that they're like,
there's that one frame of Batman where he's got his feet up on the Bat computer and he's got his hands behind his back. I'm like, why does he now have the body of Adam West?
There's like a part of the story is that they throw him in a Lazarus pit.
Yeah, they do. There's parts of that story that don't really make sense, and there are points where it feels like he's intentionally doing the opposite of what people expect to be shocking.
Oh yeah, he's definitely like pointing his nose up at the first book.
Mm-hmm. Like he's like, really? This is what you like? You don't like my proto-fascist allegory?
You don't like my Nazi assless traps?
You mean Lex Luthor as like a basically?
No, we didn't ask you to do that. You're not George Miller, so don't do that.
We did not. We do not need Luthor to be Fisk. We get it. You wrote Fisk on Daredevil. You don't have to combine those two characters into one thing.
That's the funny thing, too, is no one ever wants to talk about Frank Miller's Daredevil because everyone's always distracted by the stupid shit he's done.
Well, yeah. And Frank Miller's Daredevil is probably almost as relevant to what that character became to Dark Knight is.
I guess. Like, it's not like people talk about it all the time. It's like, I guess nowadays it's really not that big of a thing.
Daredevil is only going to get so many more chances to be embraced like other heroes have been. And I think the universe keeps thumbing it down. Well, the show was going to do a lot, and then fucking Netflix happened.
Yeah.
I think that show did a lot for the character, though.
That's true.
Popularity wise.
Yeah, and I think that because we know to some degree how popular the Netflix shows were, even though Netflix easily could have been lying. I think it did a lot for what Marvel's willing to do in terms of tone. I think those shows and Deadpool are a big part of like what we will see Marvel do going forward. And how they will treat future characters,
especially when it comes to whoever they put on Hulu, like on Hulu. Like, I would be very surprised to not see them continuing to go, especially on that app, to like push for that like darker tone series, like because Daredevil and Jessica Jones, which I haven't watched the new season yet, but like they fit that more than the other two characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, but I think that they could do like a Midnight Suns or a Blade or.
Yeah.
We already know they're doing Ghost Rider, so like.
I mean, Ghost Rider.
Yeah, they fucking wrestled
either way
in the grip of who the fuck has Agents of Shield?
ABC Television. It's.
I feel like there was some finger prying to get.
Well, it's technically a spinoff because it's the same actor, it's the same everything.
Right. Also, ABC Television has produced all the Hulu stuff and technically all of the Netflix stuff. It's just that, Jeff Loeb has been more hands-on with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, I think. That's my assumption.
I'm sure he's pleased as punch to be working in the superhero show without any actual legacy superheroes in it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I wrote 2 of the best Batman books ever made. They're like, whatever, this show about Coulson.
Yeah. They did like a season about Deathstroke, and then they did like 3 about the Inhumans.
Deathstroke.
Not Deathstroke.
Deathlock.
Deathlock.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the problem with comic books. Everybody has the same goddamn name, basically.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, there's a character named Slade Wilson, and then there's a character at the other studio called Wade Wilson. So
you got Deadpool, Deathlock, and Deathstroke. So,
mm-hmm.
and if you go to Image, you got Deadlock, who's
right.
Not to mention Deadshot.
It just keeps on going.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Except that Deadlock is not. Deadlock is that Red Wolverine guy I showed you, who's just like Rob Liefeld was like, I can't drop. Yeah, fuck it. He's Wolverine. Except this one eats people.
Oh,
that's his gimmick. That's
going to be copied by the Ultimates.
That is.
Wait, there's a Deadlock analog for Sabretooth?
Oh yeah, he took all of his shitty things that Marvel was like, no, your art sucks, go away, and just did them at Image. Because there's like a shitty Captain America, there's a shitty Wolverine, there's a shitty Sabretooth.
Yeah, a shitty Captain America with giant tits.
Yeah, let me. I got Deadlock right here. And as soon as I drop him in there, you're gonna go, oh, that's egregious.
Oh, what was the Captain America was like? It wasn't Agent Liberty, but it was like something stupid like that.
It's
Agent Liberty's a real character.
Yeah. So there's Deadlock. I don't know why I didn't load a thumbnail, but there's a link.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
For those who can't see,
Deadlock is
just take Wolverine and just change his color palette to red and white, and that is the farthest step you have to go.
Legally distinct Wolverine.
Right. He's got the pointy things on his chin.
Yes. Yeah. And his thing is that he has fangs and he drinks people's blood because you can't give him claws. So I guess give him fangs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my. Sorry, I'm just enjoying like the 40 worst drawings of Rob Liefeld is like a page. And they're so good.
Of course it is.
Everybody has swords. Swords and guns. Oh my god, this is the best one so far. I don't even understand perspective. This like that's all this should be called.
Yeah.
Some of the
whoa, what the fuck? It's important to remember he started very young.
Why does he have Mega Man legs?
How far away?
He looks like Zero.
How far away is his? Like, how long are his thighs that his shins are that big in front?
What am I looking at? Oh god,
his thighs are 6 feet long.
It looks like he's got like they're like shackles almost.
Oh my god.
Okay, let me. I'm gonna try to break this down for people who listen to this. All right, who is that? Who the fuck is that?
I have no idea. Is it Shatterstar or some fake Shatterstar?
Gage or one of his fucking stupid ass.
We'll go back to the page.
I know too many Image characters. And then I know like 7. He's got like I said, imagine Mega Man's legs, but add like stupid fucking thrusters in the side and what looks like a muffler on the back of them, and like just tubes, and then like hydraulic tubes in where it's like where it's
his name is Shaft.
Oh my god! And he has swords and knives.
Of course he is, and he has arrows, but I don't see a bow. Here's another one.
What the? Okay. Wait, he made a character called Shrink.
Yes, but I guess all of he shrinks everywhere, but in one spot.
That his junk is still huge. Ha ha, Rob.
Okay, we need to talk about the woman who's also in that frame.
Oh, that is about drawing men. He's infinitely worse about drawing women.
Why are her teeth just one eye? It looks like she's a mouthful of Oreo cream. What is going on there?
It looks like that character was drawn as a man initially. And then
also, why is it like she's about to cry or that her irises are melting?
Right. It looks like they had to correct things. Like it was drawn as a man, and then they had to go in and correct the mouth and correct the eyes.
This is the image art. Just do nothing else. Just a big zoomed in image of her face.
It just doesn't look natural. And for me, just like, what are you talking about? Like, it just doesn't. None of the aspects of her look natural. It's like the what's the thing? It's like Mr. Potato Head with her face. Like none of them feel like they're supposed to be there. It's so.
What the fuck is this?
That's Deathlock Booty? That from the look of it, that's
his Wolverine knockoff.
That's also Deadlock.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Look at that mask.
Wow, unless that's somebody. Well, he did draw another character for the same team. I think it was called Shogun. Maybe it was a robot that had kind of like it wasn't the same, but it had like some aesthetics where you go, you're pulling from the same source.
Okay, just so that we're clear, here is one of his best works on women.
Oh no!
Here we go.
I knew this picture was coming.
What? What's wrong with their spine?
They don't have any.
Oh, what? Where are they? Do they not have waists or ribs?
No, they don't.
No, they don't have ribs. They're
again,
not prints.
It's not even clothing. Those were painted on those women.
Part of me thinks Michael's never seen a woman before in his life.
Well, if you think that, then he's also never seen hands or feet. He's lived in a world where all he sees is swords, patches, and guns.
He did start drawing as a child, like a real little boy. So like, yeah, I mean, like he gained a lot of fame. Like before he'd probably ever had sex, maybe, or seen a woman naked, possibly. I don't know.
Drawing these pictures.
Yeah, but how old is these two women? How old is this?
This is from a comic book.
Right, but okay. He was like 19 when he first started drawing comics.
So are you saying that Rob Liefeld hadn't seen a real woman till after he was 19?
Might not have.
5-year-old virgin.
I've only seen like airbrushed like models, and there are some. I can find some Sports Illustrated issues.
He's like, I saw a picture of Carmen Electra once.
Mm-hmm. And in some of those women, because of the way that they're edited, they don't look like real women. They aren't shaped like real women. That's why we have a big problem with body dysmorphia in this country at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's why you see a picture of a very Photoshop thin woman eating a cheeseburger.
Oh my god. This one is hilarious. This is just like another amazing legs. This is way too much fun.
Is that Loki?
Yes, but not the person on the right. That's Enchantress.
What? What the fuck?
Her legs are 17 feet long.
What? That should not have been allowed.
That's
yes, Arlen. You want to continue defending him?
Does she have leg warmers on?
I'm not saying. I wasn't even defending. I was just like.
But I guess this explains the other picture that I was right. His thighs are 45 feet long.
Okay. Rationalize it, not even defend it. Like, how did this happen?
We're looking at a page. It's a full page from a comic book. There's two characters on this page: Loki and Enchantress. Now, Loki is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels that are stacked 3 across, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the bottom again.
Right.
Next to all of those is one panel of Enchantress where her legs are as long as 2/3 of the page.
But her knees, her knees are not in the middle of her legs. Her knees are 2/3 of the way down.
Her knees are where her ass is starting.
They are twice as long as the rest of her body.
Yes. Yet still, she
Hold
has.
on. Where her butt is starting at the bottom of those first 3 panels. And then the rest of them is all legs.
Oh God.
Oh Christ, Rob.
And also, I just want to point something out about Loki here. He looks like Henry Cavill in Justice League with his face, with the way his mouth is shaped.
That he's always just in that air phase. Before
Why is it in every panel he's gritting his teeth?
That's the only way. He can only draw mouths if they're closed or gritting teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has Xavier eyebrows.
Yep.
Those weird black eyebrows that just kind of like when they get right to the top, they do that hard angular curve down the other side of his temples. The only difference is he's not going, my mind.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we have not talked about his Captain America. That is like an issue. That's like a whole other thing.
What needs to be said exactly that hasn't been said already?
Actually, now that I just talked about Xavier real quick, let's just take a few minutes because we're not going to review the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Dark Phoenix came out, and did we all hear its fucking box office gross for the weekend?
I didn't pay attention to it, but
I came across it, and just giving just comparing it to other films in that series, it's an embarrassment. It made $33 million opening weekend.
Wow.
That doesn't happen to superhero movies.
It happens to shitty ones.
Yeah, that's
Venom didn't do that badly.
Well, Venom was like a big hit. Venom had like some weird kind of like hype around it after the first weekend.
Yeah, and that's
like
right.
After
It's like critical reception be damned. Pretty much everything the past few years has been like a success in some ways, and this came out and shit the bed so fucking hard.
Well, I think because everybody, like, I feel like everyone, and I mean literally not us nerds, not like TV people, like or movie people, not comic fans. Everyone's like, wait, didn't they literally do this movie?
Yeah, it was the first time I felt that the general populace, like everyone, the movie paying public was like, yeah, no, we're good. Like, we don't need this at all. We don't want it.
I mean, also, and it can't be stated enough, I think Apocalypse really just dropped the turd in the punch bowl, as the proverb says.
I heard this movie does something that breaks Apocalypse so hard that Apocalypse doesn't even work as a story anymore.
Right.
Even though the movie is a direct sequel to it.
Mm-hmm. The movie already didn't work, so
yeah, and I forgot that Jean already has the fucking Phoenix Force at the end of Apocalypse, and in Dark Phoenix, she just gets it all over again.
Well, she gets the actual alien version of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which also, like, so they didn't use the Shi'ar, they used some other bullshitty alien race.
That's the thing.
No, here's what happened. They had a whole third act with the Skrulls.
Right.
And then Disney was like, yeah, no, because that's happening in Captain Marvel. And
no, well, they also own them. They own the rights to the Skrulls.
And I guess Fox had to go and reshoot the entire third act and change it from some kind of, well, it wasn't just the Skrulls. I guess there was a very similar climax where Jean, I guess, takes out a bunch of fucking starships. So then they were like, yeah, fuck it. Now it's on a train and some people fight. And that's it.
Yeah. And Xavier's a dick again because that's what we do in every one of these films.
Right.
Like screwed with Jean's mind.
Every time we do this story, we do Xavier's a dick because there's no other way to create conflict, I guess. I don't get it. I don't.
Well, the next time we did this story in the comics, it was Cyclops being the dick.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
that's usually what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard he also got jobbed
you're
out.
being irrationally. No, I'm not. This is what I do.
I also heard that like that's another thing that they didn't learn, and he's like barely in this movie as well.
How's that possible? These movies are about them.
Yeah, but it's not. It's about her.
Wolverine's not there anymore to take the spotlight, and Mystique dies in the first 15 minutes.
Oh, how happy is Jennifer Lawrence that she's dead halfway through, like 15 minutes into this movie?
I watched her death on YouTube. I watched her death on YouTube, and it's the most confusingly shot thing I've seen in a long time.
Well, basically, see it in the trailer. She just gets like.
Now she gets impaled. Spoilers.
I mean,
shit.
Yeah.
Fucking cares. Don't at me. But she approaches Jean, and Jean knocks her back, and like she gets like knocked into some fucking yard equipment or something. Which is amazing because there's another psychic sitting right there who could have just been like, stop, and he doesn't. And he just watches her sail. He's like, look at her go.
She have just shapeshifted into like something that didn't get impaled.
Turned to a bucket of water.
I mean, like, couldn't she have like made herself smaller or like?
I don't know. But like, Jean.
Here's the thing: you put more thought into it than anybody who wrote this fucking.
So like, Jean sends her flying, and then you don't see her land. You cut back to Jean, and she just got this like really blank dumb face on. She's not horrified. She just looks stupid. And then it cuts back to Xavier, who also has no reaction. And then it cuts to Hank, who's not reacting yet, and then starts to react. And then it cuts to Jennifer Lawrence's face, and she's like grimacing. And then it cuts back to Hank, and then finally you're like, oh, she landed on something. Why didn't you show me that first? And then like, there's no musical swell. There's no like dramatic reveal. It's just there. You're like, oh, okay. So you didn't give a shit about this either.
Well, because they're like, oh, we only have Jennifer Lawrence for like 3 days. So
yeah. Throw her on some yard equipment and then get her out of the film. We can never talk about her again.
She's been wanting to be out of the series since the first one.
Yeah. I also saw some that cringeworthy dialogue they put in the movie. And then I was told that the context surrounding that scene doesn't even add up with what Jennifer Lawrence's character is saying. But I guess she goes into Xavier's office and starts like cussing him out over this like space mission that goes wrong.
Oh yeah, that was the one scene that they leaked or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
and then I guess people were like, yeah, that doesn't even get supported with the on-screen context because I guess Nightcrawler does 90% of the work.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you're just making people shitty for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna give 90% of the work to somebody, I would give it to Nightcrawler. So.
Probably the dude who can teleport. Yeah.
The coolest one out of all of them.
Yeah, the one who can teleport in space where you have to minimize travel because there's no oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do, Mystique? Turn into a controller? Hold on, I'll turn into air, and everyone can breathe me. Hello, I give you air for my lungs.
But the thing is, like they did this movie, and weren't they supposed to be setting up, Mr. Sinister in Apocalypse?
Let's set up Sinister in the Wolverine,
and they just never did it.
Yeah, not once. I guess I found out too that so Daredevil, Fantastic Four, even Trank's Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and X-Men were all supposed to be in a film produced by Fox, and it was going to use a superhero registration act.
Well, they had been talking about during the Trank Fantastic Four that they were going to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So they wanted to steal the thunder from Civil War before Civil War even happened. And then for some reason, like none of this came through.
Yeah,
for
some reason, Connor.
Some reason.
Well, they started using rights to the movies, and then
nothing stopped them from making a sequel to Fantastic Four that nobody asked for. Nothing stopped them from remaking it like no one asked for.
I understand the Trank remake. It makes no sense to go back to that well after that movie. And at that point, they had basically were about to lose the rights to Daredevil.
Yeah,
I think what that's also what started happening too is that and somebody also came to them and pitched a 1960s and 70s set Daredevil movie.
Well, that was also when
that was Carnahan.
Marvel was trying to trade them back Daredevil too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The whole team up stuff that was before Fantastic actually came out, and that's when there was some hope that the movie might be good. I don't know how much there was. I think
they were definitely early on hype before all the bullshit about what was going on set and offset was coming out. That like, oh, it's gonna be like a body horror movie. It's this whole new take, and there was some real interesting stuff.
I know Josh Trank keeps saying like, oh yeah, also the way he talks about it kind of betrays his intentions, because the way he talks about it is like he's talking about this great old thing. It's like he swears up and down it's real, but then you're like, can I see it? He's like, no.
So that's what like I
for a movie that was so cool, and everyone got a free hat for going to see it, but you'll never get that movie. So
if I cared enough, I'd go back and listen to him on Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
like right before the movie came out. But like from my memory, he's just like, oh, it's gonna be so good, it's gonna do all the stuff. And I'm like, dude, you know the movie that's coming out. Like, I understand like not shitting on it immediately, but like there's like a disingenuousness about like.
Well, okay, well, so from what I remember from that interview, he actually doesn't talk about the movie a lot. He talks about the script he wrote with Simon Kinberg more than the actual movie he made. And I remember listening to that and sort of thinking to myself, it's weird he's not actually talking about the movie. He's talking a lot about the pre-production and the lead up. He's not really talking about the experience of making the film at all.
Someone's like, this is all in the movie? He's like, what movie?
Right.
And it also bothers me that he like, I get in the short term not going out and talking again, but like, all right, it's been several years now. Why not talk?
I also think that he is knowingly full of shit. And as more time passes, I'm like, you really fucking lucked out with Chronicle, because that's the only movie anyone's ever going to accept with your name on it. And then that's going to become tepid because Max Landis' name is also on it.
I was going to say, like, oh, this is the guy that's like writing partners with Max Landis. So
it's complicated with that stuff. But
they met at a party, and then they both, like, I guess they met in the middle on this idea, and that's how Chronicle is a perfect storm of creativity, I think.
It does some interesting ideas on the genre.
Well, two people who have unfortunate, Max Landis has shitty baggage attached to him, and Trank has unfortunate baggage attached to him.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so most of that was my understanding is that a lot of that movie is Trank's. Like, it's mostly his movie, but Max Landis came up with a lot of really good ideas, and that's why Trank wanted him to be credited. He wanted him to be his sort of co-person on that movie because they were.
It was like he was his guy that he bounced ideas off of.
It was two creators who spontaneously were very harmonic as far as like, you know, the way their brains were working together.
Yes.
So to that end, like, it is like for what they were trying to achieve, I think, like you couldn't have gotten two other people to fucking do that, because that was an idea that they came to on their own. Even though it is Akira and it is Carrie and it is other things I've seen before, but I still like the way they did it.
Yeah, and there are ideas in the Fantastic that are interesting. Like, I like the ideas that they
like maybe turning on, like bursting into flames every now and then is probably fucking awful.
Or no, like the whole take on the Thing, and like
the Thing is like constantly in pain.
But it's all the stuff with like the setup of the, like, they don't know each other at all. Besides, like, they're two separate entities, and the Doom stuff is just 8,000 pounds of horse shit.
Well, the Doom stuff, as Hunter can attest, only gets good for about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the brain exploding stuff is good.
Yeah.
I like the idea of him being. I like the entire idea behind what he's going for. I like the idea that he's not really a person anymore, and he's connected to this like other being, this outside of our consciousness, and he's like,
well, there's just no setup to that. He just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
which adds to the whole like.
It hurts the film that he's gone for a fucking hour.
Here's the thing, that's when the studio took over the movie. All of that is from then. Whereas and again, we don't know, but there's footage somewhere, probably in a closet.
What's where like all those early rumors like is connected to all that of like, oh, he wasn't Victor Von Doom, he was Victor, was it Dumashev, and he was going to be some weird government.
There's like really bad ADR where someone off screen goes, "I see you got Victor Von Doom."
Yeah, because they never say his name again.
No, they just call him Doom the whole time.
He looks like the bicentennial man.
Victor the whole time.
He does look like the bicentennial man.
Look at him. Yeah,
and like, I think it's Mara that's gone on and like kind of been like, yeah, it was a completely terrible work environment, and her and what's his name never even met.
Jamie. Oh shit.
What's his name?
Kennedy? No, I think it's Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy's a shitty comedian that did.
Oh, that's right. Jamie Kennedy. Wow, I know him.
Problems with that script. Like, I think there's a lot of stuff in the script that isn't good. I think that this is a Tim Burton situation where, in the case of something like Batman '89, which is a movie that I love, Tim Burton doesn't care about Batman in that movie. He loves the Joker. You can tell that he loves the Joker. He doesn't give a shit about Batman. And Batman is very underserved in that movie as a result.
Oh, you can tell because everyone here's the thing about I'm gonna break and we're gonna go to Batman vs Superman real quick. I know people got upset about Batman killing people on screen, but here's the thing. I got over it when I realized that Batman's got about 58 bodies to his name when it comes to on-screen appearances alone. So I don't really think about it anymore. I watched Captain America kill people left and right, and I don't even fucking blink.
Well, he's like on the like,
in 89 Batman, Tim Burton has Batman fucking murder people. Yeah. He kills the Joker for what it's worth, and is dropping off that fucking bell tower as like with glee, like.
Yeah, he murders some dudes. So yeah, like
all the movies have him kill people. Like in my mind, Batman doesn't kill. I've just never gotten that in a live action version.
Well, okay. I think of it. The way I think of it is Batman doesn't willfully kill. That's how I've taken.
Batman doesn't murder people. It's that whole. The best line of it is the Batman Begins when he's like, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Nobody's asking me to save you.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Because if he said, like, where's Raz? He's on the train.
And in many ways, like,
okay.
I like the idea of he's just like, yeah, just cripple the shit out of people. It's kind of worse.
Like, yeah,
he might as well kill them.
Like, I think it's brought up. It's one of the only. It's a retcon I didn't. Well, it's a retcon I have mixed emotions on. But in the Injustice 2 game, in the beginning, after he punches an Arkham guard in the face about 8 times, Robin's like, and it's Damian now. He's like, murder's not cool, but giving someone permanent brain damage is fine. And Batman's like, go inside.
But like, well, there's a difference. Like, I feel like at least the comic version in my head, he doesn't do like the brain damage, but it's like, yeah, I'll give someone a permanent limp so that anytime they go to think about doing crime, they have this limp.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah.
Breaking it, like it's in Arkham Knight, there's only there's one moment of complete immersion shattering, as far as him like nearly crossing the line, because I'm like, look, you don't just back a car over someone's head a little bit.
Right.
Either you do or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, Hunter, you've seen the Let's Play from Super Best Friends. They did the Punisher, right?
Yeah.
They're playing the fucking Tom Jane Punisher game, and they're watching the all the like
interrogations.
The interrogations you can do, and one of them is you can stick a dude's face just a little bit into a test propeller.
Oh yes, I remember this.
That's not something you can do a little bit.
My favorite one of that game though is the rhino when you're at the Bronx Zoo.
Oh, you hold him there and just let him
And you
get
taunt the rhino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like
they
there's one where you like
Oh, you can't do that. They go. He touches it. His face is coming off.
the one where he puts the dude in the chromer is also pretty brutal.
They come out looking like Destro.
Yeah.
And I don't mean Destro from the comics. I mean Destro from or the cartoon. I mean Destro from the G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah.
Not to bring up that movie out of nowhere, but poor
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh my god!
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I always forget the amount of people. I always forget the people who are in that movie are really talented. Like except for like fucking Marlon Wayans is there for some fucking reason.
Comedy relief.
And now that I play that movie back in my head, I'm like, what the why do they have super suits?
Because because the toys.
There's a reason for that. So there's I don't know if any of you or Hunter, you probably know about this. But G.I. Joe Sigma, which was maybe the newest toy line around that period of time, they had like not super suits, but like they had suits that like gave you better aiming or like better like
they had the weird it was really not good.
It wasn't good, but I'll tell you this: the figures were actually like.
Oh no, they look cool. Like they got like really cool weaponry and like they have a really neat art style.
It looks like Chris Evans Captain America here.
Yeah,
they do. They're very cool. I actually own a lot. I own like 5 Dukes somehow.
And Snake Eyes looks the same because you should never touch his design.
I really like the Zartan and the what's his name? Roadblock.
Zartan, played by the guy who replaced Liam Neeson in all the Darkman sequels.
Yes, that guy.
All of their designs are very cool and very interesting looking.
AKA Imhotep.
Yes.
But some of the suits are like strength, and like there's a super suit that gives you like super strength.
It was like a remodernization of the old toys where it's like, oh, this is like a firefighter guy. He has like a firefighter suit.
Yeah, I guess what bothers me more about this movie is like one that in both movies, 2 giant major cities around the world are completely destroyed.
Yeah,
London is gone after the first one.
No one ever talks about it. They do the same thing to London in the second movie. London is ripped from the surface of the earth and completely destroyed.
There's
9/11 times 3 happens. Like
that's not even no. The entire city is gone.
Oh, no, 9/11 times 1,000,000 is what I said.
In the second movie, every like nuclear armed like country fires their nukes at once. Like
yeah.
So like that world is so irrevocably fucked.
Yeah, and like
it is, but like it's that whole
like that nanotech corrosive weapon hits the Eiffel Tower and then just destroys the whole fucking city.
Is that the first one or the second one?
The first one.
Yeah. Well, the second one is actually like I like a lot. There's some like interesting things in it.
The second one has
blind RZA.
Oh, RZA's ridiculous in it, but like what's his name? Ray Stevens is awesome.
Yeah, Firefly.
Oh, everything between the ninja characters is all fantastic. The cliffside fight with him and
Electra's in it. Yeah.
And then
basically how she got Electra is like doing this movie.
And then right after that, it's him and Storm Shadow in that hallway fight. I'm like, these two can just go at it all fucking day. Also, I love how that movie disregards the first movie, but it has to acknowledge it at the same time. So it just spends a half an hour just having characters wipe their hands of things from the first film.
I mean, like in the first like 5 minutes that they kill
when Channing Tatum is turned into a fucking fireball who flies through the air.
Do you remember that they had to go back and reshoot stuff with him to like bump up his character? I was like, what did they shoot? He's in like 3 scenes.
They killed the shit out of him.
That one's great. Kelper Commander gets a new suit, and then he turns to Destro, and he's like,
"You're out of the band," and just
he done fucked up, kid.
Not to distract us, but I've been doing some Photoshop in the background. I want to get your guys' opinion on what I've done.
Oh boy. But yeah, Destro doesn't even get. Oh my god, what the fuck?
Is it a heart?
Yes.
Oh, it's an actual human heart. I love it.
Are his fingers missing? Oh, okay, this is gloves. I thought he looks like he had zombie hand.
Blood. Yes. So I take this as a sign of approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cobra gets a new suit that people seemingly just bring him.
Yeah, he gets a comic cartoon accurate suit.
Clothes. And it turns to Destro and that's the first and last time Destro is ever seen or mentioned. And they just zoom in on Destro's sad fucking face while he's in this back to tank, and they just close the doors and that's it.
I just love that they introduce him he's actually Destro at the end of the last movie.
Yeah. His origin story is the end of the previous film and the beginning of the next one. They're like, okay, you're fired. And then Storm Shadow, who was stabbed in the chest and dropped into a tank of cryogenic chemicals, is just back.
Yeah, but it's because he's fucking awesome.
But they don't explain how he survives this it's like it would be like having Lady Deathstroke from X-Men 2 just show up in Last Stand and have everyone go, "Oh, it's you."
She does. She shows up in the game. That's supposed to be canon to that universe.
Shitting me.
No, she's like the main villain to the X2 game.
Do they ever bother explaining that?
Healing factor?
No. Healing factor
that works.
Healing factor doesn't suddenly make you not buoyant.
Let me try to.
Trapped under a base. She was trapped underwater in a base, which was then covered with water.
Yeah, it was like the
say Infinity Gauntlet, that doesn't work.
It was the game Wolverine's Revenge, and you go back to the base, and she's there, and she's starting out back.
Troy McClure movie?
I mean, this isn't how their healing factor works, but maybe if he cut off a finger and the finger regenerated, Deadpool style,
cutting her body parts off one at a time to get the metal out,
Well, I think Wolverine would recover. He would grow back appendages.
Wiggle your big toe, and someone's like, "Doesn't work that way."
You cut off the toe, and then the toe grows a whole body, which I guess is the thing that Deadpool can do.
Yes, he literally at one point was just the hand.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Oh, also Googling X-Men 2, the video game, it takes about 35 pictures to get to not safe for work.
Of course it does.
I don't why. I don't understand. I'm trying to Google images of a video game from the early 2000s.
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you stuff up this search from the early 2000s with porn? No porn has happened since then.
Well, I mean, specific to that, what I am Googling, it is
porn
actually
was lost time.
It would be something if it was just random porn, but no, it is specific to what I am Googling. And
not to invoke Erik, but I don't think if we blew ourselves up tomorrow, I think we've actually created too much porn. Where if another species came and discovered us, they'd be like, "These people like fucking."
Yeah, they would think that we were obsessed with it.
Are we not obsessed with it?
Well, we are. But they wouldn't find our statues and our art pieces or our coliseums. They would just find just a landfill of DVDs with Ass Hunter or something, whatever the fuck.
It's not just that. They wouldn't know what Full House is, but they would know what the Full House
they would know what
Full
House is, or not.
Right.
It's still a show.
Or I Film My House. God damn it.
They would never know what Doctor Who was.
Oh,
that was on for has been in existence for 50, 60 fucking years, but
right.
They would definitely know what know how much we like butts.
Exactly. Yeah.
It does. And this is funny because while watching Captain Marvel, I still like how the MCU does this, where it's every time we're visited by something, they're like, "Oh, it's a planet full of fucking monkeys." Everyone, I love it. We're the fucking mud hole of the universe.
Oh well, that's when in a DC recently has done like anytime they talk about, it's like, yeah, their planet's name is Dirt. I don't know why they call it that.
That's true. Wow. Yeah, like
Yeah, they do like some variation on that, because I try to remember the last one I read, but it was like, I think it's so like some shithole like backwater. I think it was a Green Lantern book, the one that Morrison is writing. It's like, yeah, it's some like garbage, like unevolved like planet, and they call it soil, I think. It's just like this one joke that's across the DC books.
you can kind of take the reverse of that also. Like, who are the Klingons name? What's Klingon named after? And their planet's called Kronos, and it's like, is that like their word like sword or something? Like,
it's the whole thing. If we're going to go down this rabbit hole, is like, all right, so we live, the group of us, in the United States of America. We refer to other countries by names. They don't refer to their own countries by the names that we refer to them as.
that's true. They
have their own names.
Don't. Yeah.
Yeah, so like Spain is
It's not
España.
called Germany.
Yeah, Japan is not like
It's Nippon.
Japan. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I know when that blew my mind the first time. I was like, "What do you mean it's not called Japan?" Like,
Where do you think that the derogatory racial term comes from?
Wait.
The nip.
I've never heard
Oh,
that.
that must be like old school.
Yeah, that's like World War
I've
II
never heard
racist
that one.
lingo.
I've only ever heard, and I apologize, but I've only ever heard Zipperhead is the only one I've ever heard, and that one
Was that not used in the Clint Eastwood movie?
yes, it was. Wait, no, what Nip or I'm so sorry.
Nip, any of them, they're all in it. But I thought
Yeah,
they were all in it.
They are, but that character is, yeah, he's supposed to be kind of a racist person. But yeah, like I think you're right. There's a lot of them, and then everybody talks about how racist it is, but it's even more ridiculous that his arc in that movie is learning not to be a racist because he makes friends with somebody who isn't white. Because that's how that works. Racist people just stop becoming racists after they become friends with people.
His end goal in the movie was like an old
wrong.
guy who doesn't like.
It's not wrong, but it is an
It's oversimplification to the extreme.
He's an old piece of shit who does die for someone else needlessly because he's not armed and gets shot to death by a bunch of people. But it's hard to like wipe away how terrible he is in the first hour of the film.
Yeah.
Talking to this little fucking Asian kid using language he would use when he was probably threatening people to kill, like threatening families in Vietnam or some shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
I would say though, like, and I'm trying to dance around. I don't think I'm going to hear this. So at like a recent gathering with my in-laws, my wife's grandmother was like, yeah, my mother was really racist. And then everyone at the table looked at each other like, wait, so you're saying she was, but you're not? Kind of a look.
Right.
And it's because like she would drop the N-bomb at everybody. That was like her mom. And it's like, no. I only say when I'm in like, or I only have certain views. I don't say like things to people's faces.
Casual racism.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say what my great grandmother used to say, but she, the stories I've heard are not great. Just some of the casual things she would say about Black people in particular. So yeah, like it's weird. Just
I have lots of sweet memories of my grandpa because he was incredibly loving with me and my siblings and was very good to us. However, I had my hat on backwards one day, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, that's how the black kids wear them."
Did he use that exact terminology?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Well, he told me not to wear my hat that way because that's how black kids wear them.
That could have gone way worse.
Oh, yeah, it could have been. It's an example of, like, you probably had some, no pun intended, a lot more colorful thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's growth, I think.
Yeah, well, that's how growth works. It's incremental.
And I guess he did not like Motown music or blues singers at all either. But
He's
that's all,
just
that is anecdotal, and I can't support any of it. I never saw it with my own eyes.
I don't know.
I mean, I might have to fight him if he was. I don't know if he's alive or not, but yeah, I might.
He's very much not.
Good, so I don't have to talk.
Are we about to turn another of my dead relatives into a meme?
Yeah, there's no AIDS ghosts. Oh man.
If there's an afterlife, I'm gonna meet my Uncle Sean in wherever plane of existence we're going to. And I'm gonna meet him. Arms are just gonna be out like the fuck.
I feel like I don't know him, but I feel like it wouldn't even be that. It would just be like a look. And then just an awkward, they're just waiting. Your hell is the awkward pause of eternity.
I'm like, I'm like, you're not mad, you're disappointed. He's like, so disappointed.
He's like, the joke wasn't even that funny. I would be okay with it if it was like,
how kept coming up and you never stopped it once. But I'll be like, yeah, but we're both dead now, so who cares? Like, nothing matters. We made it. We're here. Whatever this is.
All I remember, like, to cut it tight.
Here in the soul world. Hi, Bucky.
There's nothing stranger.
I will see you again in 26 years. Yeah.
There's nothing stranger though than like, because like my grandma was like from Korea, like straight Korean, like looking at somebody who is a minority, like being racist against other minorities, even ones that other people would consider the same minority as you, because she hated the Japanese because she's Korean.
Okay. Asian racism is fucking crazy. It's fucking insane.
Oh yeah,
very specific. Like
I would say anybody
specific.
Have any of you seen Ali Wong, either of her two specials on Netflix?
No.
I really have.
I love her, and she talks about how there's a difference between, I can't remember what the one term, but it's basically like white Asians and jungle Asians.
Oh God.
And that her and her husband are both half white, half jungle Asian, but they're different on each. So like her husband's half Korean, half I think like Taiwanese, and she's half Chinese, half Vietnamese. And she's like, when we have bad fights, it's like our jungle Asians come out. It's just like, oh my God. But it's like, I know all the things she's talking about. Like, that's what it is. It's the same, like, on my other side, like, there's Hispanic, like, they're just as bad. Like,
I think it was a Dat Fan when he was.
Oh God, yeah.
He was a fucking thing. I remember one bit he talked about where he said his mom would always find a way to ask him why he's dating a white girl. And
Right.
She's like, Dat Fan, try the corn. Dat Fan, try the chicken. Dat Fan, why you date the white girl? And he's like, because mom, I'm not racist.
Right.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know what happened to that guy.
He went where that joke, his real jokes went away.
He went the way the rest of his comedy.
Yeah. I don't know. And there's like, there are Asian comedians like
Standing, everybody.
If like I would say like go look up Bobby Lee. Like Bobby Lee's fucking crazy, and I love his like stuff when he talks about his childhood.
Every time he shows up on someone else's podcast, though, I'm like, did you escape from somebody's trunk?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the best things, if you have time, go to YouTube and pull up the what is it called? It's him, or it was Ari Shaffir's show that he had on Comedy Central. That's not his anymore. But it's like the two of them and another comedian that was Ari's ex-girlfriend talking about like what happened between the three of them and how Ari Shaffir beat the shit out of him.
My God.
Yes. And like it became this because he started hitting on his girlfriend, who was another comedian, right like the day after they broke up.
Oh.
And it's like hilarious because they basically go through the three of them's point of views of the story.
Oh man.
It's called This Is Not Happening. And it is ridiculous.
Oh. Who likes excuse me. I saw someone on there. Oh, it was you guys remember the Whitest Kids You Know?
No.
They're a Canadian comedy group that was producing stuff for what's that fucking independent movie channel?
IFC?
Yes, they were the Independent Film Channel. They were producing shows for IFC and had a YouTube presence. And it's bizarre comedy. Some of it's aged really well, some of it not so much, like the race war bit. But they faded because the two of their lead guys made a movie that I'm sure you all remember called Miss March, where one of them goes into a coma and wakes up to find out that his girlfriend's been a playmate for a few years, and they have to go stop her from appearing in Playboy.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yes,
I don't remember this at all.
I stopped seeing from them, period, after that movie came out because it was a fucking dud. And then suddenly that dude showed up on This Is Not Happening. I was like, oh my God, you're still funny. And a story about how I guess they went on some trip to Mexico. And then they came back and then had to go back to Mexico for something. And he was so freaked out about having to go back because he had this bad experience that he flipped a bitch in the middle of fucking traffic going into Mexico.
Oh, I've seen this.
Threw himself into the lane going out of Mexico.
Yeah, they're like the only people.
The Border Patrol was like, you can't do that. Come over here. They're like, you have to get back in that lane and go into Mexico. He's like, you can't fucking make me go back to Mexico.
He's like, I'm an American, goddammit.
He's like, I'm an American. You can't make me go back to Mexico.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Now, once you said like the getting like freaking out about going back to Mexico, This Is Not Happening is a rabbit hole of amazing stories from like tons of people. Like I always love the Joey Diaz ones, but there's some, I can't remember the comedian's name, but he tells one where he ends up playing beer pong at his house that he grew up in when he's in his like 30s with and Sons from Mumford and Sons, just like the rest of the band, but not the main guys, and the Detroit Tigers. And it's like his parents' house, and he's like, I call my sister, I'm like, shit's about to go down. Mumford and Sons is about to play the Detroit Tigers in beer pong because they think that they're gonna beat them. And she is like, and then my sister's in her prom dress, which he's like, all credit to her that she still fits in it. And then my dad comes down and is like pissed off. He's like, I have to go to work in 3 hours. And looks around and is like, is that Justin Verlander? And goes back to bed. Dude, it's like just a ridiculous story and each one of them is like themed. But they are so good. Like some of them, there's ones that have like multiple people like to tell them. Like there's another one with Ari Shaffir and his friend, and they both do acid, and it's the two of them talking about their different trips because they end up breaking off at a certain point. Where one of them is literally running through Beverly Hills, tripping on acid. God!
I think I saw Tom Segura do one of those too, but I don't remember.
Oh, when he OD'd.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah, the Tom Segura OD one is awesome.
Tom Segura, I had to check out more of because I stumbled upon him accidentally when they animated his bit about watching Making a Murderer. It's just him, like it's him. First of all, he starts waxing about the people of Wisconsin. He's like, it's a show about a convicted murderer, and the most attractive person on the show is the person who's in prison right now. He's like, everyone else in that city is fucking hideous.
Yeah, his podcast that he does with his wife, who's also a comedian and who was also in Road Rules, is great.
Oh shit!
Yeah, his wife is Christina Przynski. She was on Road Rules Australia.
I'll have to look that up because that actually sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was like her. And
she's hilarious.
Yes, and their podcast is great, and like all this stuff. One of my favorite things he talks about is like you wouldn't know it because he looks super white, but he's half. I can't remember. He speaks fluent Spanish because his mom is like full, like she's an immigrant. That's from like
weird. He looks like
super white.
Looks like Dan Harmon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
there's a lot of weird stuff like that. Yeah. Like Louis C.K. is like Mexican actually.
I think I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I think we can actually start to wrap on this. It's 9:20 by me, so I'm sure it's after midnight for you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's
9:20
plugs, but Lou's here, so it's going to still take.
I'm just going to say go to losthorror.wordpress.com, find all the podcasts, listen to those. If you're listening to this, just subscribe and listen to the shows and rate and review.
The abridged plug. I see. I've been Connor McGraw since we didn't do intros to start the show. By the time I thought about it, we were too far in. So There, now you know which voice this is. You can check out Movie Dumpster. Mario Brothers is coming out soon. We just recorded Child's Play 3. That is a bad movie.
It's real bad.
It's really fucking boring. And what we actually had on for that episode was a friend of Sean, who recently, before recording that episode, got out of basic training. So he had lots to say about the military academy presentation of that film. He also has a YouTube channel where he talks about novelizations of films. And guess what movie has a novelization? Child's Play 3.
Oh.
And he has weird insight from the book that is not present in the film that actually might have made the film a little funnier. But he's also got a bunch of weird novelizations from other things. And I think he said, I think it was a Child's Play 3 novelization you can find on the internet for like $150 because it's no one has it. Really rare. But then again, like, I don't know, like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I have an incredible amount of disdain for Child's Play movies, so that comes up a lot during the recording. But yeah, Mario should be out this week, so keep an eye for that. And then I have no idea what the fuck we're doing next. So
yeah, all right. Let's see. I've been really busy, so Lost Hero Pod is on a little bit of a break till me and Erik can record some episodes. But we should be back shortly. Again, since I've been busy, I haven't really been able to do much MASH stuff or get on Hunter about making sure that we have MASH stuff to do. So listen to the older back episodes, and we'll have other MASH stuff out very shortly to make up for the dry spell that we're in. So yeah, I guess that's my stuff. If you find me on social media, go ahead, but I'm not going to tell you my account or whatever. Like, I don't care. So, yeah.
And Erik isn't here, so really we have no way to properly derail the ending of the show. So let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh yeah. Sarah Sanders is only quitting because she has to go back to the bullet farm to wait for a Morton. My political joke. Damn.
Yeah. Fuck Rob Liefeld.
Bye.